To go down.
Over to you, Chair.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the meeting of the Outer North East Community Committee. My name is Councillor Norma Harrington, and I will be chairing today's meeting. Could I remind everyone that we are holding this meeting in a way that is COVID secure and in accordance with social distancing guidelines, which means everyone present is appropriately spread out and has been allocated a specific seat. Today's meeting is being live streamed on the City Council's website so that the public can observe the meeting without needing to be present. The Outer North East Community Committee covers the Alwoodley, Harewood and Wetherby wards and is a committee where ward councillors have an opportunity to discuss and make decisions about services and priorities for the local area, and also consider funding applications for local community projects and youth activities. Before we begin, could I inform members that the health and safety guidance we've received from council officers recommends that meetings should be concluded within 90 minutes. So whilst I do not suggest that we curtail debate, could I ask members to bear this in mind when we come to discuss the substantial items on this agenda? Could I now invite members and officers to introduce themselves and mute your microphone once you've introduced yourself? I'll start with Councillor Neil Buckley.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Neil Buckley, I represent Alwoodley ward.
Councillor Cohen.
Who is this Councillor Harry Cohen? Evening, Chair, and nice to see you all in person. Councillor Dan Cohen, also from the Alwoodley ward.
Councillor Sam Firth.
Councillor Sam Firth for the Harewood ward.
Councillor Matthew Robinson.
Councillor Matthew Robinson also for the Harewood ward, and if Harry Kane keeps scoring goals, then we will change Councillor Cohen's name to Harry.
Councillor Ryan Stevenson.
Thank you, Chair. Delighted to be here this evening. Councillor Ryan Stevenson for the Harewood ward.
The officers, Liz Jarman.
Evening, everyone. Liz Jarman, Head of Locality Partnerships.
Preet.
Thank you, Chair. Preet Kundi, Localities Officer for Outer North East.
John.
Good evening, everyone. John Grieve, Governance Services, and I'll be clerking today's meeting.
Thank you. So moving to the agenda, item number 1.
Thank you, Chair. Under agenda item 1, there are no appeals against the refusal or inspection of documents. Under agenda item 2, there are no items which require the exclusion of the press or public. Under item 3, late items of business. No late items of business, but I have circulated to members some supplementary information in respect of some additional wellbeing and youth activity projects. Under agenda item 4, apologies for absence. We've got Councillor Lamb, Councillor Harrand and Councillor Richards all passed on their apologies. Item 5, could I ask members to declare any disclosable pecuniary interests? I see members shaking their head, so I'll assume that's none. Thank you. Under agenda item 6, open forum. There are no items we need to consider under open forum.
Okay. Under item number 7, there are 2 items of correspondence that have been received. The first is from representatives of Barwick and Elmet and Scholes Parish Council regarding the site allocation plan, the SAP process, which is on page 9 of your packs. Are there any comments from members? No. Okay, well, the issues have been raised by the residents in line with, they don't really agree that the department have actually been abiding by the charter for parish councils. So they want to raise that issue. So I would suggest that if everybody's in agreement, that we refer the matter to the Chief Planning Officer, who could respond to the issues raised by the parish councillors. Is everybody okay with that? Yep, everybody's nodding. Thank you very much. And the second item is from a Bramham resident who wishes to draw the attention of the Community Committee to new walking networks in the outer northeast area and to seek the support of the committee in proactively encouraging all town and parish councils in the area to support and promote them, and that was on page 11 of your pack. Are there any comments from members on that?
Well, I think this is a good idea, actually. We used to have in our Woodley Parish Council, we had a parish councillor called Jerry Pearlman, who died 3-4 years ago. And Jerry was prominent in the Ramblers Association, as you know, and a walk from the ward, or Woodley, into Harewood, I think up to Harewood House actually, has been named the Jerry Pearlman Way. And this would link in with this, and I think the more encouragement we can give to these things, the better.
Councillor Robinson?
Thanks, Chair. I was sent the documentation about the Jerry Pearlman Way last week, and I know that that's due to be formally opened, I think, this summer, isn't it? Would it be worth, as I know some of the villages through COVID, some of the villages have wished to be more connected through walking routes. Would it be an idea for us to have a conversation as a community committee with the Public Rights of Way officer to see how we can further this going forward and improve that connectivity?
Thank you for that suggestion, Councillor Robertson. Anybody else got any questions or comments? The other suggestion that I had was that we refer the matter to the Environmental Subcommittee as well, because then that could be raised at any other meetings that we go to. And then also to put it on the agenda for the next Parish Council Forum, where all the Parish Council could then be, they could explain what the situation is and find out about it. So if we could get the Public Rights of Way officer, that would be helpful. Is that okay with everybody? Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. So the item number 8 is minutes of the previous meeting held on the 22nd of March. Can these be accepted as a correct record? Yeah, people are nodding. Good. Are there any comments about the minutes?
Chair, item 22, funding for pond creation, restoration of Great Crested Newts. The committee asked it be circulated to all parish councils, and I understand that has happened.
Thank you. Any other comments from councillors? No. Okay, thank you very much. Item number 9 is matters arising. Apart from the one that John's just spoken about.
Chair, I also better refer to minute number 24, environmental harm from motorways. So a resident from Bramham raised concerns about motorway harm. The report is going to come back to committee in September. I understand colleagues in planning services have drafted something.
Thank you. And the resident has been informed of that.
I'm not sure, Chair. I'll check on that.
Thank you very much. So item number 10 on the agenda is community committee appointments for 2021 to 22. So I'd like to invite John Gree to present the report for this item.
Thank you, Chair. Community committee appointments 2021-22. This comes every year. Normally it comes as possibly 4 separate reports. This year we've combined it into one report. Firstly, could we note the appointment of Councillor Norma Harrington as the chair of the community committee 2021-22 as agreed at the recent annual council meeting. And then the second item of business really is to appoint members to the sections detailed in schedule of appointments, section 6 of the report, and that's on page 24. So we're looking to appoint members to Children's Services Clusters Partnership, Local Housing Advisory Panels, Local Care Partnerships, Community Care Champions, Corporate Parenting, Aberford Hams House Trust.
And the additional one is the Emmerdale Stakeholder Panel as well.
Right, got that, Chair. Shall we go through them in order as they appear on the list? So Children's Services Cluster, All Woodley, last
Sorry,
year we had.
Chair, can we just move that we accept them on block?
We're happy to do that. Everybody nodding their heads. Yeah, okay, that'll do. Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Thank you, Chair. Item 11, appointment of Co-Opties to the Community Committee. Again, this comes back every year. This is an opportunity for members to appoint any Co-Opties, what they think should be put onto the committee. Members have asked for any
Councillor
suggestions?
Cohen.
I propose, as usual, Chair, we don't co-opt anybody at this stage, but if we feel at some point during the year that that becomes useful or appropriate, we do so at that stage.
Thank you for that comment, Councillor Cohen. Everybody else in agreement with that? Yeah, thank you. Agenda item 12 is Outer North East Community Committee update report, and Preet is going to provide brief bullet points on the report and take questions if you have any. Sorry.
And I always hate saying this, but I am anxious about the caution around time that we have been provided with the report that we've all read. And I would urge that we don't get a bullet point that merely tells us what the report already says.
I think there's just a couple of items that Preet does want to say, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, in terms of the update report, there was just one thing that I just wanted to bring to the committee, and that is in regards to point 4 on page 41, in regards to the members on the Environmental Subgroup Committee. If just confirmation that you're happy with those nominations. And if anybody has any questions in regards to the report. Thank you.
Councillor Cohen.
It's not so much a question, just as a comment. It is concerning looking at page 45, number 28. The LASBA East team continues to work largely from home and utilises our risk assessments to enable, etc., etc. I don't know about colleagues, but I am getting repeated instances of antisocial behaviour around the ward and concerns that visits are not taking place when necessary. There are many things that one can do remotely, but controlling antisocial behaviour is not one of them. And it is, frankly, somewhat ridiculous to suggest that antisocial behaviour can be effectively managed virtually or from a distance. We have too many residents who are too frequently being subjected to antisocial behaviour, and the police will regularly turn round and say, well, this is something that the council's antisocial behaviour team could be addressing, but of course they can't because they're not there.
Liz, did you want to say something in response?
I was just going to say that I'll be meeting with the head of antisocial behaviour later this week, so I'll take that up with that particular head of service. So.
Points well made and noted. Thank you, Councillor Cohen. So are there any other questions about the report, or are you happy to just accept it? Yep. Okay, thank you. Agenda item number 14 is the Community Committee Youth Activity Fund consultation report. Preet.
Thank you, Chair. In regards to the Youth Summit report, just basically it outlines the steps that have been taken this year due to COVID and the reasons why a virtual Youth Summit has taken place and the outline, the outcomes in regards to the consultation. So I just want to bring members' attention to paragraph 28 onto page 80, and just what young people have said are their top 5 activities that they would like youth activity money being spent on. Again, just mindful of time, so I won't go through the whole report point by point, but this can get discussed further in terms of ward member meetings. Happy to take any questions, but yeah, just paragraph 28 really.
Any questions about youth activity?
Thank you, Chair. And just really continuing Councillor Cohen's comment on the previous item, it mentions face-to-face provision here coming back from February, which is good, obviously. And I think just, I feel as though I labour this point all the time, but it's always in different meetings, so maybe I'll do it again. I think it is important that we do get back to face-to-face, particularly with youth, because they're the ones who suffered most in all this, in my view.
Thank you. Councillor Robertson.
Thanks, Chair. Appreciate the report coming forward, and I know that as members we've been having some discussions with the youth service, and I'm going to labour a point a little bit like Councillor Buckler here, that we've had that many consultations with the youth that they won't be youth by the time we get through to doing something. Actually, we need to make sure that we are spending this money and we are delivering for them, and I'm particularly concerned, as Preet knows, about the about skills and training and making sure that people are ready for the world of work, but also mental health in terms of ready being post-COVID as well. It's incredibly important, as Councillor Buckley said, that we realise that we are going back to some form of normal, and that means meeting in person again, and it means making sure that there is not a skills gap in this ward. So I will be voting for the report, accept the report, but I just want to make sure that we are going to spend some of this and deliver things in 21-22.
Thank you. Point noted, Councillor Robinson. Okay. You want to do the rest of the finance report, please? Oh, sorry, Councillor Cohen.
No, just to very much echo what colleagues have said, and just say that it's interesting that we did, using our Facebook group, some informal soundings of young people, and it obviously, not surprisingly, gave very similar feedback. And when we look at the demand for face-to-face and youth activity, it's interesting that in All Woodley we are doing a summer scheme that the councillors are massively subsidising with the Leeds Rhinos, 6 camps, one each week of the summer holidays, with 100 young people for each camp, and all bar the final camp sold out in 2 days. That is staggering, and lots of different young people. 2 days and it was sold out.
Thank you for that, Councillor Cohen. That's a really, really positive thing that you're doing in All Woodley. Preet, do you want to do the rest of the finance report?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Just moving on to the finance report. Again, not going point by point, but I would just like to raise point 14, sorry, 14 and 15, paragraph 14 and 15 on page 67. This is in regards to the minimum conditions in regards to delegated decisions. In the past, it's been agreed that all 3 members would be in agreement when a project is approved. Just asking the committee to see if they're happy to approve that again.
Okay. Everybody's nodding, Preet.
Just moving on in terms of the wellbeing projects that need to be considered, I am mindful that there are a number of them that have been listed in the report and in terms of supplementary information. So I won't be going through them point by point, but if you want to approve them in block, shall I take that as...
Councillor Cohen.
Apologies, Chair, and I will make this brief. Just in terms of the wellbeing, I do want it noting, and I dare say colleagues will agree, that it is hugely disappointing that as a community committee and as local ward members, we are being constantly challenged to do ever more for our local communities. And yet somehow that is being done in an envelope of quite significant reduction of monies available to us through what were all already, frankly, quite meagre wellbeing allowances. And I just think to see those reductions and to therefore reduce the impact of what we're able to do as ward members, it is particularly galling. So I just make that point.
Thank you, Councillor Cohen. Did you want to say anything at this point, Liz?
No, I am sympathetic. I'm sympathetic. I think all the committee, the whole budget was cut, took a 15% cut this year, and that has been shared equally across each of the 10 committees. So I know that it is very difficult financial times for all services, and I think that in making that cut, it's demonstrating that everybody's playing their part in trying to help the current pressures that are on the council's budget. So whilst I'm sympathetic, it is a massive asset in terms of assisting us with the deficit as it is at the moment.
Councillor Robinson.
As Liz has jumped in, I'm aware that some of the consultation around how funding was going to be distributed there was discussion whether S106 contributions or SIL contributions to each area would be taken into account. Was that part of the final calculation and methodology?
No, Councillor Robinson, but what we have said is that that we will work with the chairs and their fellow committee members over this next 12 months to have a look at how that SIL money might be incorporated moving forward. It's incredibly complex and will need us to do a lot more work with members to understand it in itself, to be honest. But it is something that is still on the table for consideration, but it certainly hasn't been included this year.
It's difficult because as a ward that is completely parished, we see none of that SIL money. That does not come through to this community committee, so we can't use it for those priorities. And I know you're aware of that, and that's part of that discussion. To assist the discussion, it would be really useful to know the council tax collection from each ward across the city. And that's something that's being asked of Scrutiny Committee and the Chief Finance Officer at the moment, because that would probably give us a better idea of where money's collected, and then we can look at where money's been spent across the city as well. That might help come up with a correct algorithm for how this funding's worked out on a ward by ward basis.
Yes, I think we can look at that. We're open to suggestions, any options at the moment. The formula that we have at the moment is 50% deprivation, 50% population. It's been like that for a number of years. We recognise it's timely probably for us to look at that formula. And as I've just said, we are open to ideas, any suggestions from ward members about how we best do that over this next 10, 12 months or so. So we'll continue to talk through the chairs and hopefully come to some resolution that people largely, I can't say that we're never going to make everybody happy, but we'll hopefully something that people are largely comfortable with at least.
Thank you, Liz. I would just say that I would echo that from all of the ward members, that all of our areas are parished, so we don't get any funding for SIL. So I think it is unfair, and I think I've already raised that point with Mrs. Harland, that I don't think that it's an effective way of looking at it and taking SIL into consideration. So she's already aware of my view on that. Thank you. Anything else, Brie?
No, in regards to the finance report, as outlined, it's just the projects that need approval, and I'll just do that en bloc.
Everybody happy to approve them en bloc? Councillor Roberts.
I'm happy to approve them en bloc. I note that grit bins for All Woodley is in there, but grit bins for Harewood is in there. Did it not make the cut this time? No. Sorry, I should.
I'm just working through that list. I know there's a number that you gave me, and there's some prior in past grit bins, so I'm just working through to see how much it is, and I will get that sent to get ratified in the September committee, if that's okay with yourself, Councillor.
That's fine with me, and I know how confusing it is because they're coming through from every member, though, and some of them are backdated, and I think this presents part of the challenge as well. And I note Liz is in the room too, but it's not just grit bins, because that's a very seasonal element. What we've noticed is litter bins in general. There is a backlog of litter bins that are going back pre-COVID, and I'm now not sure what's in place, what's not, what's been funded, what's not. And I know that isn't Preet, that's for the service to try and help us improve things for residents as well. So it's more, Chair, you know, and Liz, you may wish to have a word with them and just help ward members and help Preet a little as well.
What I would say that on that, Councillor Robertson, is that Wetherby ward members have been speaking with the environmental services, and that they are plotting maps across all wards, and they are getting on with that. But the paper map that they have doesn't match up with the computerized section at the moment, and that's what they're doing just now. So again, in our ward, I think they're kind of looking at it to see how it works. They put it out to parishes, asking them for input as well as to where any new bins need to go. So there is some work ongoing at the moment by environmental services, but we'll certainly take that up for you.
I'm not going to labour the point all night, but I find it ridiculous that we're dealing with paper copies still in a 21st century digital world. How are we still dealing with paper copies to know which bins were collected and which were not? Yeah.
Which is why they're trying to get it digitalised. Councillor Purr.
Thank you, Chair. Is there any way of getting an update of when that may actually be completed? Because if I'm right, ever since I was elected in 2018 with colleagues, it has been going on that those bins were, a map was to be created, and that map is still not emerged.
I think the situation has been a change of personnel in that department, and the gentleman that is there now has grasped that and is taking it quite seriously about getting it done. So that hopefully the experience that we've had in the Wetherby ward will then cascade to other areas.
Thank you.
Councillor Buckley.
Yeah, just on this point, really, it's not just two options with different locations on a paper and a digital map. The third element is where they actually are. Because we had a situation in Old Woodley recently, without going into too much detail, where one person wanted it on one side of the road and that was where it was put. Another person didn't, and the bin moved 3 times in the dead of night. And it actually resulted in an officer being assaulted. Anyway, it's all resolved now. In fact, in point of fact, the bin has now been moved, so it's adjacent to Councillor Bentley's property. Anyway, that's another matter.
Thank you, gentlemen. I think, yeah, the point is that, yes, they are working on it, and we will keep pushing for that, for a resolution. Thank you. So that's the end of the finance report, isn't it? Yeah. So the item number 14 is date and time of next meeting. Monday, the 13th of September, at a venue to be confirmed, but it will be at 5:30. And we are, do you want to just talk about the venues for the next meetings, Preet? Sorry.
Sorry, did we? No, it's all right. Ignore me. There were 2 pages. Ignore me. I hadn't turned over. It's all right. Do carry on.
Thank you, Councillor Cohen. Preet?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, for September, I'll be looking for a venue in the locality, and we have a Town and Parish Council Forum happening end of this month. So again, I'll be looking for a venue, possibly either Wetherby Town Hall or Treetops. And then possibly in September, we could have a venue in Harewood. And then in October, we've got another Town and Parish Council. Again, we'll be out. Oh, sorry. So our next 3 meetings will cover each ward, basically.
Stevenson?
Is there a requirement for those meetings to be broadcast like this one?
I don't think for the Town and Parish Council Forum, but for September.
For committee meetings, though.
It would depend on whether the infrastructure's there for us to be able to live broadcast them.
Well, on that note, it might be worth asking a Boston Spa Academy if we could use their centre, because they're all equipped for online stuff, and it might be quite nice to utilise the schools in our constituencies rather than just village halls, given they are community centres.
Councillor Cohen?
Yeah, just to be clear, we don't actually have to broadcast meetings at all. There's no requirement to do that. I only know that because we had a different meeting and one of the legal officers pointed that out. So we don't actually have to, but although I think it's great that we do, and I absolutely encourage it. And I think the idea of using our schools, that of course are all Wi-Fi'd up to the back teeth. I was going to go for a different part of the body there, please I didn't. Would be a great idea.
Thank you for that suggestion, Councillor Stevenson, and for your approval there, Councillor Cohen. I think having looked, I asked earlier what the kind of figures were about people actually viewing the meetings on YouTube. And I think the last one that we had, I think you said it was 80 odd people had actually watched it on YouTube. Well, we would never get 80 odd people in a community committee meeting. Councillor Cohen.
Sorry, just to clarify, is that 80 odd people or 80 odd people?
I think I couldn't remember if it was 82 or 83, Councillor Cohen. Okay. Okay. Thank you. So we're all quite clear that the next meeting is on the 13th of September and the venue will be put out to you so that you'll know where you've got to turn up to. Thank you very much. So that concludes the business. Can we please switch off the webcast?